big homestand coming up. They won last night.
You know what? I am so disgusted with the attendance from last night's game.
Talk that attendance, Jay.
12,000 fans on a beautiful 6:10 start so the kids can get home and get to bed before a late hour for school the next day. 12,000 was the announced attendance. I don't think there were 12,000 there.
There's a lot of vendors sitting down.
Yeah, and probably the season ticket holders that just said, I'm not going to go. I don't get it, Jason. We're mid-September. They're now 3 games up on the White Sox, 5 games up on the Twins. And by the way, aside from the fact that you get the chance to watch the Guardians, when I was young, I used to look at who is in town and when.
Absolutely.
Oh, Seattle's coming. I want to see Griffey.
Absolutely.
So the one thing that I was really excited, I thought they'd get 25,000 last night. They didn't get half that. The one thing that I was most excited about was Ohtani. Is going to be perhaps a back-to-back MVP in the American League. I mean, Judge might win it in the end. Ohtani gets my vote. You've got, coming into yesterday's game, you had Mike Trout going for history, and he got it. He's homered now in 7 straight games. He's the only right-hander in history to do that. If he homers tonight, he ties Dale Long, Don Mattingly, and Ken Griffey as the only major league players to hit home runs in 8 straight games. Like, I'd want to be there for that. And is it apathy? Have they had enough of the Dolans? Is it the Guardians name change? How do you explain this?
You can't explain it. I do think it's some of all of that. I do think that there's some bitterness and hurt, resentment, and feelings over the name change still. I don't understand it. But people,
it's real though.
How do these numbers compare to last year though, pre-name change?
Well, I mean,
I really don't know. I'm asking.
I don't think they're significantly less. They're always in the bottom 3, 5 in attendance.
Well, and it's really tough too because COVID. Like you have to go back to 2019.
Yeah, you're right.
To get the last fair base from attendance.
Yeah.
The teams, oddly enough, were pretty similar in terms of win-loss
success
records.
at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this team is better and in better position to make a playoff push. I don't get it, and I'm scared to death because in this age of cities like Charlotte and Vegas and Memphis and Nashville that are saying to leagues, we'll build stadiums, we'll build $1 billion state-of-the-art stadiums. I don't know how Cleveland holds on to a baseball team long term, and I know that the new deal is signed and they are here through.
I think it's 15 years?
Yeah, I think it's 34 or 5. I don't know. We'd have to look that up. I think it is 15 years. But like beyond that, we're losing population. Cities like Charlotte, Vegas, Nashville are burgeoning populations.
Charlotte's exploding.
Charlotte is an incredible city.
I walked past their stadium just this past week too.
Right.
They have a triple league.
They treat their AAA team like a major league team.
there. Yeah, and
fans go.
The Knights, is it?
Yeah, the Charlotte Knights.
Beautiful stadium.
It is
It
gorgeous.
was a gorgeous stadium, and
they're dying for major league baseball.
And it's right downtown. It's a perfect spot.
I think Nashville's on the list before Charlotte.
They probably are.
I think I spent about an hour on the phone with the guy who's trying to bring baseball to Nashville for a piece we were doing on could the Indians leave at the Indians at the time. Could the Indians leave and go to Nashville? I think Nashville's on the list higher than Charlotte. Nashville's got an incredible thing set up going with they want singers to come in and do sort of stays like they do in Vegas.
Right.
And build that around the stadium and all that. It's nothing we have to worry about right now because the lease is extended for 15 years. But
thank God.
I said it, last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know that Cleveland can support 3 teams. We don't have any proof that they can support 3 teams.
I said that weeks ago. I say, Cleveland has never had 3 teams be good at the same time. So it makes you fall into this false sense of security that, yes, we are a 3-team city and we do support them. No, not really, because 2 of the teams are usually terrible at the same time.
Yeah, but one of those teams will support regardless.
And one of them,
no matter what, the Browns.
That's it.
Now, I will say this.
So you never have to worry there.
For me, I just look at it from a pure economic standpoint. I look at it like this. We go to restaurants, right? We buy cars.
Yeah.
We do things. If you go to a dealership and they rub you the wrong way, they're trying to put you in something that you don't want. You say, I ain't never going back there again, right? You go to a restaurant, all it takes is one time.
I know, bad experience.
One time. And people now are even more fickle then fans are fickle. Think about it. We talk about the Browns. How many people jumped off the Browns? Yeah. So there's a lot of people, and that's the Browns. Some people jump from them because of the Deshaun Watson and a lot of other things, and they're like, no, I'm going to go do some other stuff. I think right now, economically, from a standpoint, people have other options. You really have to work for every customer you get anywhere. And I just think baseball and sports, that's a reality, too. Think about it, Jason. All these basketball arenas ain't filled. The numbers are down to a certain extent, too.
The team is winning. It'd be one thing if they were, like the Angels are, for crying out loud. Then I could say, well, you know what? Nobody wants to go watch a loser. This team is filled with heart, hustle. They really exemplify our spirit, our lunch bucket, give it everything you have mentality. And they're winning. They're in first place by 3 games going into the final 3 weeks of the regular season, and we're putting 12,000 asses in the seats over there.
They got to win a championship. They got to win a World Series.
Teams depend on their season ticket base for attendance numbers. You're never going to get a walk-up crowd of 20,000, 25,000. It's very rare. And I've spoken to a handful, not a huge number, but a handful of high-money people in town who have season tickets to all 3 teams. And all of them say they are most frustrated with the Guardians over the Browns and Cavs and the way that they treat season ticket holders and some of the schemes that they pull
I've
in
heard
terms
the same
of pricing.
thing.
Yeah, in terms of pricing. If there's a rain out, you have to pay more for the makeup. And I don't know all the ins and outs, but there's just ways that they go about it that infuriates a lot of their season ticket holders. And the Cavs, by and large, get the best reviews in terms of how season ticket holders are treated and some of the perks that they get.
And the worse the Cavs are, the better they treat you, too. And as it should be, really, which is what they do.
And there is a level of trust because Dan Gilbert spends.
Yes.
Because they won the championship, people view Dan Gilbert in a much higher status than they do the Dolans, despite me screaming for years.
No one's done more with less.
No one's. And I like the Dolans, the way that the structure that they provide, the stability they provide the organization is the way you want your franchise run. The Cavs, until Dan Stroke, were the most volatile team, and it was not really a healthy work environment for a lot of those people.
Right.
But the fans don't see that. The fans look at payroll, and they look at, well, that team won a championship, and he spends, we like that guy. We don't like the Dolans.
Short-term versus long-term.
And I just wonder if anything would have changed if the Guardians Indians would have won the World Series.
I do. Some people discount that. They say, well, they're competitive.
You cement lifelong fans that way.
Yes.
In the younger generation where we're losing fans anyhow.
And it's interesting because as much as people want to scream about the Dolans, it's like, what if they won Game 7? What would you say then? Because the Dolans did everything they could. They didn't lose that game. They provided all the resources. They did everything they could to win that game.
The irony, though, is, and I remember the Jason Kipnis. I don't want to say being critical of the fans, but he basically said,
I remember that.
Why did you guys sell your tickets?
Yep.
Yeah.
Every fan base in America dreams of one thing: hosting a Game 7 for a pennant, for a title, for a championship.
Yep.
And you sold your tickets?
Well, that's true, and that stinks. But you're also saying that to a group of people who are from a far more impoverished city. I know that these were ticket holders, and you have Chicago money, who also have not won a title in how long?
I understand.
So imagine the kind of money these people.
I have a very good friend who came in from Chicago and spent $4,000 for 2 tickets.
It was everything to them.
It's a lot of money.
And it is a lot of money.
If we were playing the Marlins, that probably wouldn't have been an It probably wouldn't have been a problem.
Still, I'm not going to say personal situations. I understand that everybody's situation is different, but you've spent the money. Like, you own the ticket, and you traded the golden ticket.
Right.
Would Browns fans have
cash?
sold?
No.
I was going to that. No.
Never.
That Cavs fans wouldn't even.
Because if they're playing an AFC Championship game at First Energy, that stadium could be 300,000 in size, and they would pack it.
Right.
And so I pulled up some attendance figures because your question was fascinating. How does it stack up? And I'm really blown away by this, but I remember now. Go back to 2010. Okay, 17,000. 11, 22,000.
These are the averages?
Yes.
Okay.
Averages. 22,000 in 2011. 19,000 the next year. 19,000.
Is this just Guardians? Just for the MLB?
This is the Guardians. Indians at the time. 19,000. 2014, 18,000. 2015, 17,000. 2016, in which they had an unbelievable run in June, and it kind of coincided with what the Cavs were when the Cavs were winning the championship. 2016, they were one run from winning the World Series. They averaged 19,000 fans. Fast forward to 2019, that was the last pre-pandemic year. They were up to 22,000. Now, what did they do differently? They spent money. They did spend money on those late teen years.
You saw the uptick in the Edwin Encarnacion.
Yes, they went out and made the big off-season acquisition. It was only one or two guys, but you saw the payroll over $100 million. They haven't been anywhere near there since. But it was interesting. After the World Series, the next season, the attendance went to 25,000, from 19 to 25, and they didn't win it. Imagine had they won it. The next year, from 25 to 24. The next year, from 24 to 22. That was the last pre-pandemic year. Obviously, in 2020, there were no fans. 2021, last year, they were all the way down to 14,000 again, and they spent no money. The Dolans, from the outside looking in, looked like they were completely cash-strapped. They had
much of that was still pandemic too.
I was told by someone that every Major League Baseball team has an emergency fund, just in case the cataclysmic, not it wasn't for a pandemic, but it was, you got to have an emergency.
Right.
Not the Dolans, they don't have it. So when the pandemic nearly wiped out a lot of teams, it forced the Dolans to come back the next year with what looked like a AAA roster with no money being spent. So their attendance went from 22
a great position to be in
to 14, and this year they're averaging. It doesn't say for 2022 where we are, because this is through 21. I'd be surprised if we're averaging over 14,000 a game. Can you call that up?
Yeah, I can bring it up. But again, it goes to the season ticket base. Like that's the primary source of your ticket revenue is going to be off the season ticket sales. And you can see where, and I even made the point of, hey, they had gate receipts all the way up until Game 7 of a World Series. Like, that extra postseason money makes a massive difference in what you can then, because then they go and sign Edwin Encarnacion. And then what happened? They were swept by Houston. They got one home game.
What did they spend after 16 after going to the World Series?
It went down.
It went down.
Yeah,
so
and
it seems like it should have gone
up. You know what, though?
I
liked all the moves they made. They were making strategic 1 or 2 year deals with guys who had performed at the major league level.
They don't like that.
And they were name players. And they brought them in, and then when that playoff money dried out, they were done.
Where I come from, it's called big bang, take little bang, right? If you plan to win, it's hard to tell somebody, hey, I want you to come see my team, yet I'm not going to spend the level of money that I really should to compete, but I do just still need you to come on down to the restaurant and eat this food, and they don't have the greatest vegetables. The service is great, but what about the meal? I think you really have to say, if they won the World Series, you can build from that.
Absolutely.
That's cachet. If they won this year, people next year would say, I got to make a decision. Do I want to go see the World Series champs? Or do I want to see an upstart Cavs team? Some people might still go to the Cavs, but you're competing at a different level.
When you're fighting for those entertainment
World Series, now it's a different level. It's a different level.
17,000 is this year, 17,100.
Okay, so that's up. Now, I can't remember. Were there any restrictions for attendance at all in 21?
I don't believe so.
It seems to me that there was early in the season.
I feel like you're right.
I feel like they had like a 12,000 seat cap.
My brain is
because that was still the 6 feet.
But I
can't remember.
Right.
So you did mention, though, the year that they got Swisher and Bourne, that the attendance went up that year, though, right? Is that what you said?
I was
regardless. I can still remember that campaign.
The big bump was in 17, coming off this World Series
and
appearance.
even then, they were never in the top half of it.
No, you're still at 25,000, and we're applauding that.
Yeah,
that's why my long-term question is, what is the future of baseball in Cleveland? And I don't mean up until 35 or 38, whenever this contract expires with the city.
Right.
I'm talking beyond that.
Right.
Because right now, we've got I think, one of the best managers in the game. We have the youngest team at the major league level in first place. playing their tails off.
Yep.
It's intoxicating watching these guys because they're having fun and they're winning.
I'm trying to come up with solutions for this attendance problem, though, and trying to understand why it is this way. And I'm thinking of that year that we signed those guys, and those guys didn't work out with them, and like for the team. But it didn't matter because I want to know if that was still. I remember them being in front of the marketing campaign that year for the Indians. Like they used that. They were on the tickets. They were on the billboards and stuff.
I don't know.
But it might have been worth it, and the attendance might have gone up just because they made some moves. And I think maybe fans want to see that you're willing to make these moves, even if they don't pay out.
No, you
if
can't.
they show.
It's not worth it because they still talk about the misses of Bourne and Swisher and how much it impacted.
It sets them back.
How much it set them, and they I've talked to people in the organization who say we cannot make those mistakes
no,
again. It's
not this franchise. Yankees can do that all day long.
Well,
right.
The Indians do
because
that
because they're too scared to try again.
Well, no, they don't have the funds to make up for it. Like the Yankees just spend their way out of mistakes. So, okay, yeah, we got to,
Now,
like the Tigers couldn't do that with the Miggy deal, and that's why they've lost 100 games every year for the last 7 or 8.
So here's what's interesting. Now the David Blitzer group's coming in as minority owner. There is a pathway in place. He has no ties to Cleveland.
No.
Right.
So that's where your concern comes in of 15 years down the line if this doesn't change.
Yeah.
And you have an owner who's
I don't
not
think
from
that's going
here.
to keep him from wanting to win here. I think I've told you guys my cousin is very, very high up in the Blitzer organization.
Here we go.
Well, I've talked to him a lot
you.
about this, and obviously there's some things I can't divulge, but I can tell you that overall, I get a really good feeling that this guy is involved with us. Just take a look at how he's managed his other sports teams.
Yes.
Not afraid to write checks. He's also, I think, and this is a very small piece of it because I don't think he owns a very big part of it, but Matt Collig being involved, I talked to him about a month ago at the stadium, and I don't want to speak too much out of school for Matt. I know he's thrilled with his NASCAR teams, but that was his new shiny toy a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I could see in his enthusiasm and talking about the Guardians, like that. To me, it felt like now that's his new shiny toy.
Hopefully he gets bored. We want him to get bored with NASCAR.
I want more Matt Collig involved
Right.
in this. I want more from the Blitzer group because
agree.
they can write checks to get the payroll where it needs to be, to get the fan base reinvigorated to start going back to progressive.
And that's what I was going to say is that as they do this, because they have all these plans, and I've talked about this, for the development around Progressive Field. They want to redo that area, mixed-use development, all that stuff. If they can take that money, pour it back into payroll, maybe you reinvigorate the fan base. My point is, if it doesn't work and attendance is still at 15,000 in
That's a problem.
2031, 2032, you're going to have a real problem. on
Charlotte
your
or
hands.
Vegas or Nashville is going to swoop in and they're going to write a check and they're
Obviously,
going to take
it's
our
not
team.
a concern for today. It's not a concern
No,
for
no.
right now.
I'll be dead by
This is
then.
long-term projection.
At some point,
I hope not, Mike.
At some point, you got to say, if I'm going down to the boat dock and I'm out here trying to hang out with Jay, you got to know you ain't got no boat money, dog. I can't be mad that my little pontoon ain't doing what it's supposed to do. At some point, you can't be in the game unless you have a certain level of money. That's the reason they don't let you go to the mortgage place and say, give me the $500,000 house. Where you work at? Wendy's. I know they're giving $20 out at Wendy's. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but you got to start at levels.
Your metaphors are fire today, by the way.
That's
Your
a good one.
metaphors
I mean,
throughout
that's
the
a good
day
one.
have been
but
on point.
Jason, I think you back this up. Dolan didn't have that expendable cash. That's why we now have a Matt Collig in the family,
Yes.
and we have Blitzer in the family. They're here to help write checks to offset some of the
Yes.
expenses of running a team.
Yes, but it was made clear to me at spring training, like, these guys are not just going to come in and start writing checks to
Well,
cover
no,
losses.
because it wasn't even official in spring training.
No, but the point was even long term. It's not like, and I kind of tried to look at John Sherman when his money came in. Okay, that's where the payroll went up, and then
Right.
when his money came out, it went back down. And I was told basically, yeah, well, it was really the BAMTech money that made it go
Yeah,
up. And
all
then
of the
came
teams
back
got
down.
that big windfall
Right.
from Bam.
Are we
So it
glossing?
wasn't-
Go ahead.
It's not necessarily the minority owner. Like, it's
Well, it is a
actually-
coincidence, though, with Sherman. The timing of it,
I think it was.
and I think he was
coincidence in the
spending money
timing of
with
it.
this team.
But like I've talked to minority owners in different teams, and I've talked to front office people about being a minority owner. Like now, I think it's different with Blitzer because there's a pathway for him to be majority owner, and it's the same when Sherman came in. Basically, when you come in as a minority owner, you've already been vetted. So you're on the fast track if another
Yes.
team becomes available. And that's what happened with Sherman in Kansas City. His hometown team became available. There was no real clear-cut plan in place of when he was going to take control here, so he's gone.
Isn't
I
that
didn't know
what
that.
happened with
I
Haslam and
knew
the
that was
Steelers?
team.
What happened with Haslam and the Steelers?
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
I hope he's not greasing the skids to buy a team somewhere else.
Well, I don't think that's the case. It's because It's my understanding when it was Sherman, it was kind of really open-ended of when there was going to be sort of a handing over of, and I think it's a little bit clearer now with the Blitzer group of when that's going to be.
Well, I believe it's written in where he assumes more ownership of the team as the years go by until eventually he's at 51%.
But without that, just being a minority owner in a team,
it's not a good place to be.
You're not in on all the major. You're not in on the decision making of who you should trade, who you should sign.
Don't you?
They don't really listen to you. It's really more of an ego boost. It's a little juice to say that you've got, I'm an owner of whatever, but you're not consulted on any major decisions.
Ain't nobody talking to Usher.
So,
ain't nobody call Usher. Hey, Usher, man. Them
Usher was,
Usher's
like, get me Donovan Mitchell. I'm Usher.
And every situation's different, right? Like when Dan Gilbert had Nate Forbes and I had just lost his name. Jeff Cohen.
Yeah.
So when those were his minority partners, they were also his best friends from college.
So there were powwows.
So there was a little bit more, interaction with them. But for the most part, when you're a minority, and again, I've talked to minority owners. You don't get a lot from
So you're writing checks, but you get no juice.
And that's what had when we were talking to Jimmy Haslam at the owners' meetings. Jimmy said, hey, man, we just kind of walked in with the Steelers. He said, I was getting sized for Super Bowl ring before I wrote the equity check. We thought this was easy. But they didn't really have any involvement in the day-to-day team because I said, did being a minority owner with the Steelers prepare you at all for this? And he and Dee laughed. Like they laughed at me and said, no.
So they're basically a donor.
Yeah. And it's
just like getting ordained online.
But again, what it does is it gets you in the building. It gets you in the room so that, again, with Jimmy Haslam, when the team becomes available, you've already been vetted by the boys.
That's
and
fascinating.
You're already in the club.
And it works,
so
obviously.
when the team becomes available, you can
Jay,
go.
you're a venture capitalist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you put some things out there. You put a couple of little coins on blackjack shit. You've done a couple deals. Y'all do business outside of here. You know how it go. We're going to give you a little stack. We're going to put in. I want my stuff on the backside. Give me the back
But
end.
you know what we do? I'm not saying me or Jason, but I'm saying as investors, when we invest in a 401k, we're giving our money to the expert. Yeah. Like this is the person that knows you want to be in this, you want to be diversified, you want to be in this, we got to do a little bit of that. I don't want to say in that because I love shopping at Home Depot, but I don't know what the stock's going to do.
Right.
So I want to trust the expert there that they know how to spend my money. So I guess it's kind of the same thing. He's giving it, but I gotta have ultimate faith that when I give this money to Dolan, he's going to spend it wisely. And you know what? I think the track record is he has. What the money that he has spent, nobody in baseball over the last 10 years has won more games with less.
Yeah, but what are you saying? You're saying that if he spent more, then we would lose more?
No, what I'm saying is,
or would they be better
if he $45 million and can be in first place?
Right.
3 weeks left in the season.
Right.
Just imagine how that same front office can operate. It'd be like somebody going to a blackjack table,
right?
And they're counting cards and they're slaying it, but they're playing $10 hands. Now let's take them to the $1,000 table.
That's what I'm saying.
Take that same theory and premise to the $1,000 table.
They've proven they can do it with a little money. Right. I don't think they're going to get worse if they had more money.
No, they're not going to get worse.
So congrats on doing a great job when you have very little money, but give them some more. They've earned the right to more.
My God, have they earned the right to more?
Now here's the thing. Can I say that? Are they betting on themselves? Because I tell you like this, if I'm getting money here and I know how much money I got, and I know that I got a great track record of being successful, I'm gonna bet on myself.
Right.
I'll eat chicken noodle soup.
Yes.
My wife won't go on vacation. I'm gonna bet on myself because I feel like I'm gonna get the return on investment.
What did Mitchell say about Andy Reid? I can't remember how he phrased it. I think he said,
he looked hilarious in those shorts. He did.
He said, trust the good and don't fear the bad.
He said it eloquently, more.
Yeah, much better than I just said it.
But I felt that.
It should be like a calligraphy tattoo there, by the way.
Right, but I mean, if you think about Andy Reid he's going to trust his guys that something good's going to happen. He's not going to fear that something bad's going to happen. You can do that when your track record is, I bring winners in.
Yes.
And the Guardians, Indians track record is, they bring in winners.
Yes.
Now imagine if instead of eating at the little kids table, they could eat at the big boy table and have the budget of the Dodgers and the Coastal teams and the Yankees. What what would the limit be?
I don't think it'll ever be that. They'll never be in the Dodgers.
The economics won't
But
let
they
it.
could be. I'm just going to throw out the Cardinals are even high end, but they could be middle of the road, top 15.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to happen next year. Just because they have these new ownership groups coming in, it's not going to be overnight. I think you're going to see it over 4 or 5 years. Again, as they build up the area around Progressive Field, as they try and do stuff
Jay,
outside and funnel it back in.
What's left in 4 or 5 years? Our attendance is trending down, 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 down. At some point,
let's see, to G's point, if they can make a postseason run here, you should see the boot, because again, it goes back to your season ticket base. No one's buying season tickets right now for this season. But possibly if you get a good run in this year and you get some good feeling of good things to come, possibly you see the bump next year. They have to get creative in season ticket and packages and everything else. But if you can increase your season ticket base, you're going to increase your attendance long term.
Yeah.
I love that we didn't have insurance for COVID. We were the one team that didn't. We were just riding dirty like with my sister with no car insurance, just hoping she hasn't hit anybody.
Hey, man, who cares? We're socialists, right? We get that PPP money. No, I'm playing with
We're like,
y'all.
oh, we were
See, you wouldn't have thought that even came from me. Final takes, right?